We're here at the South by Southwest Interactive Festival. This is AOL Build live at the Raptor House. We have an amazing panel right now, streaming live. We have Creating a Career, what it's like to reach millions of people with the click of a button, which I think everybody at the South by Southwest Interactive Festival is trying to figure out. We have moderating this, we have Moj Madera right here. We have Meredith Foster. We have Amanda de Cadenet. We have Tyler Oakley. And we have Joe Z. And I'm going to... There we go. That's really nice. I'm going to leave it to them, so take it away, guys.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Moj. Thanks for coming to this panel. I'm super duper psyched to be sitting here. It's almost like I feel like I'm dreaming because I've been coming to the Raptor House for a few years in a row, and I've always wanted to work with Jim and Sarah and Raptor, Rock Nation, and to have you guys sitting here, Tyler, Amanda, Joe, Meredith. This is just, I'm psyched. Like, I'm nervous inside. So thanks for doing it.
Thank you. And thank y'all for showing up.
Yeah. Holla. We are sort of in an interesting time in sort of digital space right now. I wanted to talk a little bit today about culture. You know, I think a lot of people sort of deliberate in the digital space around business models and how to make money, and I think those conversations are interesting, but today I wanted to sort of touch on something that really blows my mind, like a way more than sort of how to monetize eyeballs. I want to talk about culture and fandom and where that's all going. Meredith and Tyler, we sort of sat around in the past few days and talked about stats and sort of how to talk about why content creators are more important than ever. And one of the stats that we came up with was that 42 million people saw American Sniper. And, you know, that's a huge number. It's an Oscar darling. And, you know, when we sat down and looked at your stats and Meredith's stats, 55 million people have looked, and unique viewers have looked at your views over the past 6 months. So we're sort of here to talk about what that all means. The reason I care about that is because I'm a huge fan. In general, I love fandom. I started out as a music fan. Music is something that just shaped and touched my life as someone who felt very sort of different and unique. And this is sort of the first time since I was, in my teens and 20s that I've seen something that is captures my attention as passionately. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Those are some crazy stats right there.
Crazy stats. Did I give everything? Did I do everything?
Yeah.
Did I say everything to CEO of BeautyCon? Did I talk about BeautyCon?
You did not talk about BeautyCon. Plug it, girl.
Yeah, let's do
Okay,
BeautyCon.
so why am I here? I am the CEO of BeautyCon.
Holla.
We have...
Get that promo.
BeautyCon's the digital platform that aggregates Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, and Vine into one place. We also have an event platform and a really awesome subscription business. So what we're doing at South by is we're basically here to kick it off, launch it, and we just had a crazy, crazy, crazy event in Dallas with 6,000 fans just going bonkers. Thanks, Ken. Okay, so, whoa, that was loud, Meredith. Okay, we just came from your meet and greet this morning in Dallas. That was your first BeautyCon.
It was my first BeautyCon.
It was my first meet and greet with you, and I got to meet a lot of fan letters that I saw get handed to you yesterday.
That was awesome. Yes.
How was that for you?
It was amazing to be able to, put a face to the username and connect with the audience. And it builds, when you connect with them and interact with them, not only online, but when you make that connection in person, in real life, and see them and get to know them because they know so much about us, it's nice for them. We get to know them, and I think they love that because they feel like we're building this relationship and a strong level of trust with them. And I think it's really special to have that in-person connection.
And what inspires you to keep creating the kind of content that you're creating?
They do, to be honest. They are so... I think what they don't realize is how much of an impact they actually have on my life. They always tell me how much I impact them, and that's what's really special about our relationship. We inspire each other to keep going and to pursue our passions.
Awesome. And how do you feel, how do platforms like BeautyCon or other content creator platforms out there help you connect with your fans?
It's a great tool to be able to have that environment like BeautyCon to gather everyone and meet new creators. I met tons of other YouTubers who I hadn't met, and I watch them online, so it's awesome to be able to meet them and get to know them as well. And I think our viewers love seeing that interaction of their favorite creators, their favorite YouTubers interacting. It's fun for them to see it. It makes them happy, and BeautyCon is a great venue and experience for them to see that and then get to know their viewers and talk to them.
Kind of speaking to that, it's like, imagine back in the day when your two favorite TV shows had a crossover episode, and it's like the event of the season. Yeah. And like for content creators to get together, we just met this morning and we posted pictures, and everyone was like, "You know each other," and that's like there's excitement around it.
Yes, true.
Amanda, you are someone that I consider to be on the bleeding edge of content. You're a host, you're a creator, producer, director. You executive produced and created The Conversation. Had some of these platforms been around, how do you think that would have sort of shaped your creative process, or what, like?
Well, I would have been in a lot more trouble growing up if we had have had digital platforms. But when I created The Conversation, I initially made it to go online because no one was making content like this. It's deeply personal, intimate interviews with women and girls about really significant things that happen in their lives. And it was my own story is threaded through this. And I didn't think it would end up on television. I built a website myself, like some terrible website, and I was going to put it up there. And the network, and I was just saying this to someone this morning, the network wasn't aware. When Lifetime bought it, they were not aware of how powerful digital was. And they were like, oh yeah, let it keep the rights to that. And I was like, score, And I think that there's no way I would be able to reach the 18 million women around the world that watch my content if it wasn't for digital. There's no way. And ultimately, I'm making content that tells stories that can help and inspire women and girls. And so I need it on a digital platform. TV can't reach the places that digital can. I get letters from girls in like Iran and Saudi Arabia and South Africa, just telling me, I watched your show and I didn't know women could think like this and feel like this. Thank you. That's all due to digital.
Sorry.
Did I answer a few things in one go? I couldn't do that.
So how do you think these platforms are sort of helping young women or sort of just people in general?
I think being able to connect with other people who have the same interests and or challenges as you do is so powerful. I mean, like Meredith was saying, I've had like direct contact through all my social media with my audience. So I pretty much make things now that they've told me they want. My audience kept saying, please write a book, write about this, that, and the other. And basically, I've written a book based on the things that they want to know about. So it actually is so valuable for us to be able to communicate with one another and build a relationship. And like Meredith was saying, it's not one way. Like when I'm having a really rough time and I just think, oh, I can't keep doing this anymore, I get emails, I get tweets, I get pictures saying, thank you so much for that interview that you did, and it changed something in my life, and you think, all right, I got to keep going.
I love you, Joe.
I didn't say anything
love
yet.
Joe.
No, I do love Joe because Joe has been a great friend to me and a great advisor and mentor and just giving me tons of great advice early on as we sort of have gotten BeautyCon rolling, and as you sort of have transitioned, because I met you when you were at Elle, when you were sort of touching 1 million plus, uniques and people a month, and now you're at Yahoo Style. You're the editor-in-chief, and you're essentially, I think your platform's about 800 million people a month.
I think probably almost 1 billion now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how does that
Joe got
change
there,
your?
it's 1 billion.
It's been 1 billion now.
You're doing
yeah.
okay.
Oh, wow, we sat here.
That's a
turned into
nice
1 billion.
multiple. It's a good multiple for you. But I remember how excited you were at that transition. Like you were giddy to share the news, and you were so excited, and you were like, "We're gonna do all these things together." How does that change the way that you? Because what we could do at Elle and what we can do at Yahoo is so. How does that change your approach? Content creators, influencers, like. What's changed for you?
Oh, I mean, I think everything and nothing at the same time. I think I've always lived in that world. I was first, the fashion world is a very much of a bubble. So I think they always sat in that bubble and they love that sort of preciousness about the industry. And I was never that kind of person. I love sort of making it democratic and making it fun and making it something that we could share. And, I was one of the first people to sort of go on to social media, even in the world of fashion. And that was really sort of different for sort of a top-level editor to sort of be transparent about everything that we did. And people thought, oh, like, that's such a cute thing that you're doing. Oh, what are you writing people now? Are people writing you back? And now everybody's trying to play catch-up. And I think when I got to Yahoo, it was a simple thing. I mean, I was plugged in every single night. I'm going through the news feeds. I'm clicking on headlines. I'm looking at things. And I just say that what I've created at Yahoo Style is no different than social media. It's just social media on steroids. That it is really that headline, but exploded. It's that picture on Instagram, but you get 50 of them. And when people are, loving something, they're insatiable. And like they can't get enough of something that they love. And this is the case with all you guys. And like that level of fandom that you're talking about. Like if they love what you're doing, Meredith or Tyler or Amanda, they're going to keep coming back. So if I can deliver it for them in such a way, I mean, that level of engagement and captivating them and holding them makes it so much stronger. And you know how loyal that digital audience can be. If they love something, they will be there all the time, supporting it, seeing it, sharing it, opinionated about it, and that's okay. And I think that's really what it is. I think it's like social media in that way, that it's a two-way conversation. I think for me, it's like probably even less like, oh, we like this, so I get to get feedback. It's like, you like this, we're going to create more of this. We're going to do more of that so that you, as a user and a reader and whatever you are, have a much more participatory effect on me than if I worked at Elle. I put something out in Elle. I loved it. I don't know if you liked it unless you tweet me, and then I can't really change it. So beyond the fact that a printed page is something I have to work on so much in advance, it just is the final product. There's nothing I can do. I can't sort of continue that conversation. I can't really engage you further than that printed page. And I also have to expect you to find that printed page.
Well, I'm so curious. Why do you think the fashion industry, what's the resistance to the new sort of breed of content creators beyond the blogger? Like, why are Snapchatters, Instagrammers, YouTubers, like, why are they not sort of embraced from the... Or are they? Do you think they are?
I think it's changing.
I think it's old guard and new guard. I think it's old
Yeah.
guard and new guard. I think it's everything. Look, is that any different than the television industry or
Don't
any
even
of
get me
that?
started on that.
No, but I think it's still sort of, those industries are really run by old guard, so they're used to a certain type of thing, and then
Old
you have this
guys.
sort of yes, and then you're used to this sort of new guard who have a new way of approach. So it's that sort of struggle between new and old media in a way.
But
In
look at-
television, in movies, in fashion.
But even look at like all the fashion shows are streaming now. I mean, Tom Ford just showed his last collection in LA, which was really unusual, and he streamed it. So most of the big designers are using digital media to further their reach, and I think it is shifting. It really is.
Oh, I think transparency is here, and
Yeah.
like if you can't be transparent, you can't succeed.
That's a good Josie quote.
Don't you think though?
I agree.
No, but don't you
I
think?
agree. I mean, surely that's the same with your audience. They know things about you that they have a personal connection to you.
I think the level of intimacy between the creator and the consumer is it's huge, and that's the success. And I think, especially, I can only speak for myself, but I think for YouTubers, I think you're a part of the consumer is a part of their success, and they feel a sense of ownership in it, where they've been curated by the people who watch. And whereas a lot of TV shows or a lot of musicians, a lot of people make those decisions, or people decide who should be in a show or who should be on radio or all those things. Now it's in the hands of the people who's going to consume it.
It's a democracy, ultimately.
It's a democracy, yeah.
And what we're ultimately talking about is audience curation. So, I mean, like I said, with my book, it's curated by my audience. All of our audiences. You're saying someone likes something, you give them more. People have elected both of you as someone that they want to hear from, they want to be involved with. So it's audience curation.
But I think it's also to a level of authenticity, sort of what I was
Right.
sort of going at in
Yes.
terms of what transparency is. Like, all those YouTube girls that do those sort of makeup videos in their bedroom, it's like, you become these huge stars and you start to do it in a very slick production, and it doesn't work as well. I think there's that level of authenticity in that sort of doing it lo-fi.
There's an approachable level to it. where
Absolutely.
It's like who I'm watching could be my neighbor, could go to my high school.
But I believe it, and they could be me, and they could do these things.
Right.
And I think you look at even the social media platforms today, where like the next gen is sort of shying away from even Instagram, saying, well, that's too produced, it's filtered, it's too specific, it's too tuned up. I'm going to do Snapchat because it really is real, it really is authentic, and it really is silly. And I think that's what people are starting to strive more for now, that level of authenticity, which you don't find on television, or you don't find, in a printed page
You
maybe
don't find
as
in
much.
traditional media as well, because that is photoshopped and edited and an image is selected. I mean,
Oh, really? No, just kidding.
it's a whole different experience. And I think an audience knows when something's inauthentic right away. right?
Yeah, they can see right through it. They're smart and they figure it out. That's why it is important to be transparent about it and be like, "Hey, I'm doing a sponsored video. I'm just letting you know," and they're okay with it usually.
What I found is they know that influencers, this is their job, and they get that they need sponsors if they want to create better or more elevated content, or more often, or higher frequency, or be able to do it full time. So they support when a YouTuber gets attention from a brand or a sponsor.
How do you go about choosing what brands you want to work with, or are there times where you say, no, I'm not interested in working with you regardless of the dollar? Because brands are dying to work with you guys. I mean, every brand on the planet wants to work with a big content creator in this moment in time, right?
I say no to a lot of things.
Why?
Because more often than not, it's because whoever wants to work with me, they don't get it yet. They want to give me a script, or they want me to show the logo for 1.5 minutes, or they want all these
traditional media thinking.
It's a lot of people that don't get just let me do what I do sort of feel. And so when somebody does get it, I'm like, okay, cool, we can work together. And then it kind of goes through the filter of, okay, are you providing something of quality? Is it something that I would recommend without anybody asking me or giving me, money to do so? And is it offering something to my audience that's unique and special through me?
Is it authentic to you?
Right. Is it something that I would just
being
love?
on brand?
Yeah. Is it on brand? And then if it fits all those things, and they
because I feel like you promote brands sometimes that aren't paying you, right?
Yeah,
there's lots of brands that you both love that have
Yep.
nothing to do with.
Yes.
It's not always about, right?
Most of the brands
Yeah.
I mention on my YouTube channel.
I mean,
I'm
it's
not
very
being
different for
paid.
the beauty world too, because it's everything's very product based.
Right.
So you can probably speak to that.
When I work with a brand, I think it's important that the brand and the creator work very closely and communicate their visions to each other so that they're on the same page. And also a great, when the creator knows their audience the best. So we know what gets our audience excited. So I think for the brands to kind of hone in on, kind of knowing that we do know what's going to get our audience excited the most. So I think that's important to, keep in mind.
And treating creators like a partnership, not a billboard. We are not, you do not plop the brand on it. You don't, you have to kind of work with us to create something that's going to be mutually beneficial. Otherwise, the audience is going to hate it. They're going to resent the brand. They're going to make fun of the hashtag, those types of things. If we don't work together, we know, your audience better than anybody else, and you know what's going to make them tick.
But how often do you have the experience of you're talking about?
Good or bad?
The good one.
The good ones, more and more. Every year, more and more.
Same.
That's so
because
great.
when you say no, they say, oh, we have to change what we're doing, because
Right.
nobody will work with
The
us.
power of saying no.
Right.
So important.
And a lot of what we do is educating and getting on phone calls and explaining things so that they get why we have to say no for now, and hopefully they'll come back in the future.
But I think there's still a lot of brands,
Right.
and maybe you can speak to that, is that they think, oh, we need to be in this space, but we're just going to glom on and have no idea what the space is,
Right.
and think that we can just throw your name or your face or whatever it is behind it, when it doesn't really have anything to do with you or your audience.
Right.
It's almost like a whole new formula needs to be created, which it sounds like what we're all trying to do in our own way of content creators being able to work with brands. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know the last partnership I did, they were insistent upon it rolling out a certain way, and I said, this is not going to work. I'm telling you, no one is going to respond to this.
There needs to just be levels of trust.
Right.
I mean, that's what it comes down to, I think. That's all.
I'm down with some trust.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of trust, I want to talk a little bit about Trevor Project.
Sure.
And what that means to you. I want to talk about it not because I think there's been a lot of traditional personalities or digital personalities that have raised money for causes they care about, but I think the one thing that really compels me about what you've done with the Trevor Project is that you've gotten your fans to care about it. They really care about what it is. I think not. I don't know if everyone here knows what Trevor Project is, but
I can explain. Well, firstly, hi, I'm Tyler. I'm a YouTuber, and I make videos about my life. And Trevor Project was a cause that was always really close to me. I used to be an intern for them 5 years ago, back in the day, back when I thought I was going to have a 9-to-5 job. And they're...
What would that job have been? I'm so...
I wanted to do digital marketing. So
Okay.
I would be
Sure.
doing... I was
Right.
doing what I do for myself, but for companies.
And for 24 hours a day, not 9 to 5.
Right. Yeah. What happened? But yeah, the goal was to do social media for companies, and I was doing that, but I was so frustrated because there were so many loops I had to jump through and so many approvals, and I'm like, just trust me. And so I hated my job enough at the right time to go full-time YouTube. But anyway, Trevor Project. It's a suicide prevention crisis hotline, if you want to call. They're there for you if you're going through suicidal thoughts or need somebody to talk to, things like that. But I used to be an intern for them. I really wanted to work with them. But then going full-time YouTube, I was like, I want a way to get involved and still have an impact in the campaign. And so what I do now is every birthday, I dedicate my birthday. Usually people would send like gifts to my P.O. box. So now I say, no gifts to my P.O. box. Let's just raise money for the Trevor Project. What I've found is people cared. And I think a lot.
Like
yeah.
5, hundreds and like a lot of money they care.
Last
right?
year we raised over $500,000.
Exactly. Awesome.
The goal was $150,000.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, it was amazing, and to think that it was coming from middle schoolers, high schoolers donating $10 at a time.
So beautiful.
It was a really cool thing, and I found that they got involved because it wasn't just me explaining why it was important to me. I would do live streams every week, and I would call the people watching, and I would ask them, why is the Trevor Project important to you? And I think they got involved because they started to hear their own stories in everyone else's stories, if that makes sense.
Of course.
And so to get involved in that way, I mean, it's a cause for LGBT kids. Most of my audience is younger girls, maybe not in the LGBT community. So to see them get involved in a cause that's not directly affecting them, it had to have impacted them in some way. And so I think it was because people were sharing their own stories that they related to. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that was just a campaign. Thankfully, it was for a nonprofit, but it was just a social media campaign that was really successful. So again, I'm doing it this year. If you want to donate, prizeo.com/Tyler.
Which you do, which everyone here
You can
does.
get a T-shirt or something. Yeah. So that's that.
You can feel good about yourself.
And you can feel good about
Yes.
yourself.
Amazing. I want to talk a little bit about, and I think we already sort of touched on this, but I sort of want to talk a little bit about Gen Z because I think everyone is still millennials. They're still like, I want to figure out a millennial. And then now we're like, guess what? There's plurals in Gen Z. So there's like, now it's...
I don't even know what those mean.
Right. It's fine.
I don't even know what I am.
Younger. It's just getting younger and younger because I think everyone is, technology is just happening, if you pick it up a lot sooner, right? So why is it that there's all these like stats and reports out there about brands and how sort of consumers, because that's what they're referred to as consumers, right? Not fans. Why is it that they don't trust advertising, and why do they trust you, Meredith? Like, why do your fans trust you? Why to sort of what they should do, where they should go, things that they should be interested in?
I think it's, like we were talking earlier about how it's just such a personal relationship. Like on TV, the people in shows are not constantly communicating with their viewers. So when we're talking to them, we've just created this bond. And I think they feel like they're like one of my friends in real life because I have, communicated with them, and I feel like they think they can come to me for anything. And I tell them that I can go to them, and we support each other. And when I'm, talking about a product in a video, it's not forcing it to them, and they just feel like, okay, she likes this, it's authentic to her, and I feel like I can trust her. And I think that that's why they feel like they can trust me.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You said why don't consumers, your fans, trust traditional
media,
marketing?
yeah.
Well, because they shouldn't. Because they know, they're savvy to know that they're largely getting manipulated and sold something that they don't really need. I mean, I have 8-year-old kids that look at God forbid they see that Carl's Jr. ad with like the lady in the bikini like making love to the burger, but that's ultimately what it is.
Me. That's
It's-
I am
But
that
my,
lady.
my kids say, oh, Mom, that's advertising. They're 8. You know, that they should be so aware of how marketing works. It says a lot. So, of course, when they have a trusted friend, they're going to listen to that person.
But I think it's also the frequency of voice. I mean, I have this conversation all the time, and I think, you know, that we used to say, like, oh, if you go to the movies and you see Nicole Kidman, well, she's in a movie once a year, maybe twice a year. You're like, oh, I like her, but she's a movie star, not really accessible. Then you get Jennifer Aniston in your TV on Friends every single week, and she's in your living room every single week, and suddenly you feel like you know her better, and she connects with you. Now you have Meredith on your computer where you are on, or your phone.
You're getting Snapchats
every
from her.
single minute of the day. I could write her, she'll write me back. That level of frequency, that level of connection is even now more than Jen Aniston being on Friends once a week versus someone in a movie theater. And now she's connecting with you any time of the day. Anytime you have a question, she will call you, or will call you. She'll write you, she'll tweet you, she'll send you a picture, but you can go and watch her videos. It's there. It's that personal. So in a way, she's become a family member. I don't think any of their fans are under the impression of buying something, you know, on the slide. They know exactly what it's about, but they just believe you. No different than your sister saying, like, you know, I really love that mascara. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna give it a try. You know, I think that's what it's become, you know, that level of trust.
It's great. I mean, it's fantastic. That's
How long do you think it's going to last?
Ooh.
Oh.
No, I mean, like, where does it go? Like, right? I think that there's a lot of people who are excited and trying to figure out how to, take advantage of the situation or build businesses. There's a lot of interest in the space. I think people are hedging their bets. Like, is this a flash in the pan? Is this going to be the way it is moving forward? I personally think we're at the infancy. I think this is the beginning of a very, very big thing. I've placed all of my bets on this space. I think everyone knows I've driven everyone crazy with influencers, content creators, and I've been nuts for the past 3-4 years about this. So how do you respond to people who are sort of still hedging their bets? I mean, all of us.
They don't have to get it for it to work.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm fine if they are standing by the sidelines.
Right.
'Cause for us, I think we've been a part. I mean, you were there from 0 subscribers, and you've built yourself up, and
300 million views.
right, and
300
you are doing
300
perfectly
million
well
views,
without
bonkers.
the non-believers. So, and the
you,
right people
you
are
personally have, I think it's 4.5 times more followers than all of Condé Nast's channels put together. All of their YouTube channels put together, and you are, I mean, what is
No, you
I'm
don't
just
have to do
like,
that.
I don't. To me, like I read these
So
stats,
I don't
and
think
I'm
it's
like,
a flash in the pan.
I'm like, what is going on that people don't? Because this is the stuff that wakes me up in the morning. This is why I drove to Dallas, then I drove back. Then I'm like, because I have never in my whole entire career, I've never seen what I see when 2,000 people show up in the morning to meet you guys, and they're just like crying and freaking out to see you.
It's like what it used to be like for rock bands.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's why I think it's so interesting, because it's been a missing. I think it's been a missing for a lot of people, this sort of fandom and connectivity to an audience and to creativity and content. And I think, I'm waxing poetic now, but I think this is all blowing up because I think the people who are creating this content and the people who are viewing it are sort of underrepresented in traditional media.
I think, and that's a
Yeah.
huge thing where a lot of, at least for me, I can only speak for, like, as a gay man, growing up, I saw a lot of characters that were gay that carried their plot line. If they had any dialogue in a TV show, it had to do with them being the sassy whatever.
They may have been written by a straight man.
And
as
they were,
well.
and it was not somebody owns, or not somebody, it wasn't their own narrative. You know what I mean? And so with YouTube, anybody can join, and you see tons of underrepresented communities finally have their voice and have it heard, and they're reaching the people they want to reach without having to jump through hoops. And there's incredible movements that are happening on YouTube, whether it's feminism, having discussions that weren't able to be had before.
Hipster hijabi is my personal favorite.
God bless.
Yep.
And there's just so many different facets that finally have a microphone.
You said, feminism. There is such a big movement
Huge.
discussing and addressing and what is feminism.
Redefining whatever that means.
Right.
Right.
And for me, I make content for women and girls, and we all know there's no women on late night television. There's no women that have their own shows at all outside of daytime where you can talk about anything that has any substance to it, quite frankly. So I find making my content and making it available online every single girl and woman that I've had contact with that looks at what I do said, I wish that I could find this somewhere else. It's the only place I can find it. And I can find other like-minded people there. It's building a community. Thank God.
Yeah, that's true though, and I agree with you. I think we are in its infancy. You know, to what you were saying, like there were no gay role models, but there was no fashion. There was nothing. Like the communication was really small when I was growing up. Like now, it's completely different. Like if you think about it, the iPhone is only 7, maybe 8 years old, and that was a game changer because with the iPhone, it allowed you to carry content with you also everywhere that you went. So I'm sure you have a lot of girls looking at the videos anywhere that they are on mobile.
Most views are mobile.
Most views are mobile. So like this is going to be how we're connecting all the time in the future because I'm going to put this in my back pocket. I'm going to have my role models anywhere I go. So if I need feminist content, if I need makeup content, if I need whatever it is, I can find that exact voice that connects to me, and I can just pull it up anywhere that I am all the time, share it with friends,
You
and
never
do
have
what
to
I
feel lonely again while you're waiting for your friend at a restaurant.
Well, I mean, but I think it's that voice of like being able to be with you wherever. Like we talk about a TV show that you love so much being in your living room. Now that person's in your back pocket.
Right.
Awesome. Are there any questions in the audience that anyone wants to ask? Questions? Lisa?
Oh, we have a few over here.
Yeah?
Hi. Well, I like the dialogue. I like, and that's part of, I think, why I experience a lot of the successes that I have, because a lot of the content that I create is fan-driven or viewer-driven, where it gets them involved. So it's a Ask Tyler, or it's a conversation of sorts, or we have an online, like a live stream where it's like the dialogue is happening real time. So I don't really make content that is supposed to just be thrown up without me having a discussion with it afterward. Because I'm in the comment section all day of my upload, or I'm replying to fans all day long with questions or anything that they have. So I like that element. I don't see a problem with it. If anything, the conversation continuing outside of the delivery of the product being the video, is great for me because it gets them coming back for the next one, and the conversation is happening. They feel involved in it, I feel. I don't know if that answers the question, per se.
Here, I'll chime in really quick. For my creative process, I mean, I post, when I'm creating a video, producing it, everything, I make what I want to make, and it comes from my mind, but I also take into consideration what the viewers want to see, and I let that bleeds into the content for sure, because I'm making it for them. I'm also making it for myself, but I want to make them happy, and when they are happy, it makes me happy as well.
And I think it sounds like your question is even about integrity in a way, and I feel like integrity is subjective. I feel like what they're doing in terms of really working with their audience and doing the type of content they want is that level of integrity for them. And you have to sort of respect that sort of process as well.
And the odds are is that your audience is not going to be too far off thinking you're thinking anyway, because that's why they're your audience. Do you know what I mean? So like when I shoot, do my interviews, I'll ask like, who do you want me to interview? And the people who get, unanimously say, I don't know, whoever it is, like, I'll try to get that person. It's going to look how I want it. It's going to be edited how I want it. That is my creative vision. But the actual subject sitting with me will come from my audience. So it is collaborative.
Yeah. That's true. Very collaborative. It's a two-way
Question?
street.
Well, I actually want to respond to that. I want to respond to that a little bit and just from not being a content creator, but watching content creators. I think that they're a voice for people more than just an artist where they're doing it for themselves. They're actually there to speak and represent a mass community of people that aren't heard, which is why you guys have so much integrity and why you guys have so many people that engage with you on a day-to-day basis, where you guys are able to be creative and embrace your creativity and offer that to other people to have a voice in being creative, but it's not about you, which I think is really the next, like why you guys are so big is because it's not about you, and you represent not just yourself, but everybody out there that, can fit under what you guys are doing. So that's why I think brands are responding a lot more, because no one, as a brand, if you look at their social media, you don't want to see them talk about themselves all day. That's so boring. Why would you want to do that? You want them to actually have a bigger voice and have other people be represented under a brand and understood under a brand. So you guys are creating your own brands. So thank you.
Question?
Vloggers and bloggers who are connecting with audiences, and sort of that's the sweet spot now. Are you guys following technology and technological advances to see where you're going next, how you're going to connect next, how you're going to make the interaction richer, especially with the mobile device? Or is it just a platform where you are sort of like your talk show host but online?
That's an interesting question, and every week there's some other piece of technology that someone
new app,
right, where someone's like, oh, have you tried this thing? And it may be great, and maybe it's really successful, but I find for me, spending too much time spreading my energy in all different places is not conducive to building my audience, because then they have to move around too, or you have to collect that audience. And I find, for me personally, I'd rather stay in places where I know my people are until I hear from them that they're somewhere else, and I might check it out.
I really take cues from my peers, and not just other content creators, but also brands, and seeing what they're doing and seeing their strategy. And so if, for instance, I remember when everyone was joining Twitter, or then when everyone was joining Instagram, or making Facebook pages, or now
it's
Snapchat.
Meerkat. Oh my gosh, this entire 4 days, everyone's like, let me Meerkat. Okay.
Well, I'm not. They haven't reached out yet.
Might not be an authentic fit for you.
Might not be a fit. We'll see.
We'll
Only
see.
time will tell.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter. But I like to see what my friends are doing and how their audiences are responding to that, and really studying if it feels like a good fit for them, and if I'm aligned with them, and if I usually can take my cues like that. But then if it's something like Snapchat, it just is like a duh.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are doing that right now. Like that's the
200 million people, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the YouTube community.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's now having public Snapchats, and that's the thing. Like, what's your public Snapchat? So yeah, taking cues, and also not being afraid to take a risk and just join it. Doesn't hurt. I don't know.
We're gonna wrap up in a second, but I just sort of I know, sad. I'm sad.
We can live stream.
We can live stream ourselves. We could just do this ourselves. There's no doubt in everyone's mind. I think that's why South by Southwest has become such an exciting place for different sort of content creators, technologists, media companies to get together. 10 years ago it was too soon. This is definitely the time where traditional Hollywood is definitely paying attention to digital. Digital is definitely paying attention to Hollywood. I've never seen so many sort of people I never would expect from traditional agencies and management companies now really caring about content creators. I really wanted sort of Amanda and Joe on this panel because I think of both of you as people who got it really early on and have done such an amazing job of sort of transcending your own audience. Where do you think the next, forget about years, because we all know nobody knows the answer to that, right? So let's 6 months from now, as Hollywood gets more and more heated up, traditional and content creators, what's next for us?
I did a live late night talk show all summer, and when I was done with that, I was like, that's it. I'm not doing another television show. My television show is done on TV. I'm doing it online only. And I think people in my agency were a little bit like, "Whoa."
Traditional is now going to digital, and digital is now trying. It's like just
right. And I think that certainly the people who I work with were like, "Are you sure? And what about this TV show?" And I was like, "No, it has to be online for me." And I think the more people actually create content of value, and there is so much of it now, that's why the industry can't ignore it. It's not getting funded in the same way. And ultimately, that's the problem. If you want to make things like, I go in with meetings with people and they say, "Oh, we want to do a digital show with you and here's $500. You're like, okay, like, how do you expect me to do that? And they're like, "Well, no one's really paying for digital." And I'm like, what is going on? Like,
that's somebody you say no to and they'll get it in 5 years.
Oh, I did. I did.
God bless. Yeah, no. But like they'll get it eventually.
Right.
But it'll be too late.
But then they've missed the boat because you've gone and done it somewhere else.
I know, but I think everybody wants to put everything into a box and say like, oh, it's not about print, it's not about television anymore, now it's about digital. I actually think it's actually not true. I think it's about all of those things coming together and working in a way because they all are actually complementary and not competitive.
Right. And everyone's always asking digital creators like, oh, do you think this is replacing? Or
No.
oh, do you think this is like the or do you want to make the transition? It's like I would never leave what made all of my dreams come true. I'll do things together, and I think that's the future of it all.
I mean, absolutely agree. And like, you talk, I always use this as an example. Like when the television was invented, radio didn't go away. People on radio just had to really quickly redefine themselves as to, well, we can't really do breaking news anymore because they're getting it on TV. What do we become? We become specialized music stations, but they still exist. And then now you have television, you have digital. So great. Everybody has to rethink. They can't be lazy anymore, but they have to be able to rethink how we can all work together in a very complementary way because print and television will always have a halo in a different way than digital. But there's a way that can all live together and become the biggest entity out there. I mean, you talk about millennials, they're all going back to podcasts and Sirius radio now. Like everything is going full circle that these kids that you're trying to target want to listen to the radio. So what do? You can't just sit there and be like, oh, it's about this or it's about that. How do you actually make it all work together?
I mean, that's a great question and it's a great dream. But the truth is like for someone like myself that makes content that finds a hard place to live on television, I don't know. I don't know how content creators from digital can just slot into television. It's not, I don't think that hybrid and that business model exists yet. And I think there are people who want to work it out, but we're not close to working it out yet.
I mean, this year we'll see with Grace Helbig, with her show on E. We'll see. There's tons of digital creators that are making that transition this year, but you're also seeing they are not leaving digital at all. And I think that was always the expectation of when are you going to make that leap? Well, we've seen some people try to make that leap, and then the audience is like, oh, you forgot what made you. Good luck.
Your fans,
yeah,
right?
But I think they also want to make the leap by replicating what's online onto broadcast. And that's not the answer.
Right.
It's finding like, it
format.
has to be something completely different. You could use a personality from online, but then create the thing that works best on broadcast.
There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference of like watching
you're right.
a 3-minute video in the privacy of your own home with headphones than a 30-minute version of it. It doesn't always translate.
It doesn't translate, and there's many examples of that.
So you have to find a good balance.
You do? Yeah, I agree with you. And then once you do, that's perfect because what television does is be able to allow you to have that immediate must-see event. And then the internet does is continue that conversation when you're not there. And then it drives you back to broadcast. And those are the things that will keep the cycle going because one scratches the back of the other. But you have to have all those things for it to be a successful platform.
That's beautiful.
I mean, is that wrong?
No.
God bless.
Amazing.
That's a T-shirt.
Oh my God. Every time Joe throws down, I'm like,
Drop the mic.
My hope in all of this is that that everyone will always remember it's always been about the fans. It will be about the fans, and that without them, there's essentially nothing.
I love that the power is in the fans,
It is.
especially right now
That's
at
all
the
it
most
is.
it's ever been.
Right? I mean, it's not. I mean,
great.
being a fan is the best place to be, and I think as long as everyone remembers that first, that it's not about sort of your consumers anymore, and it's about your fans. I think we'll be in a much better spot. So
Fans, not haters.
that's right. No one wants the haters. Okay. I think
Thank
that's
you,
it.
Moj.
Thank you.